Welcome to the CEN show, where we present the voice of the community. The CommunityEducationNetwork.com is a platform to aid the effort of self and collective improvement. In your investigative or spare time, visit the website and check out our Legends page. It features some great individuals, including my awesome parents. I am your host, Rasaki Mascani. Tonight's topic is twice as hard, ain't going to cut it. Tonight's guest is Peter Rogers. This is Peter. This is Brother Peter's second visit, and his first show was dynamic. The four R's. If you haven't heard it, it's a must hear. It occurred on May 4th, about 2 months ago, and it's on the website and YouTube. Welcome, Brother Peter. I would like to ask you a question.
Sure thing.
Because of your great insight with very important, valuable information that you present, I want you to become a team member of the website as our community professor to add to our wonderful team. J.S. Nelson as our technical director, Professor Amin Ra, historian Joe Hembrick, and myself, Rasaki Mascani. All right. So, Brother Peter, you gonna answer that question?
Yeah, you know what my answer gonna be.
Well,
like they tell every lawyer, don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to. So I'm with you, brother.
Okay, so we'll talk about later the details. All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Definitely.
Take on over.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I do understand that some people's attention may be a little divided tonight, especially in the LA area, as we have certain other events going on. But if you can focus here for about an hour or so, let's talk about a few things that I think are apropos to what's been going on for the last year and specifically, but for the last 156 years in broad sense. I just want to relay a very short story to you to kind of set up the topic here. 1985, I was in college. I was a senior, and I was 180 credits deep into my engineering degree. And I kind of realized, you know what? I don't know if I really want to do this. I'm more of a teacher. I want to, I want to teach and I want to instill and I want to train. I don't know if I necessarily want to be sitting at a desk drawing crap for 10, 12 hours a day. So I said, I asked my mother and I said, I'm going to take a quarter off of school. And I took a quarter off of school. And, during that course of that time, my mother and I were talking and she said, so you are going back, right? I said, oh yeah, I'm going back. I just need a break. You understand what it is to be literally the only Black man in the whole engineering department at Cal Poly? In fact, when I graduated, I was the only period on the page. There was a little bit of Nestle's Quick here and there, and a little bit of something there, and a little bit of that. But when it came to the period, this was it. So out of almost 580 engineers, you got one, me, in the class of 1986. So we're not talking that long ago, but it was a while. But anyway, my mother and I were talking, and she said, yeah, you going back? I said, yeah, I'm going back. She said, you know what? I don't want you to not get a position or not get a job or get passed over because you don't have that piece of paper. And I said, yeah, I know, I understand. I get that. But you got to understand, I'm out here, I'm by myself. There's no one helping me. There's no one that even I know who can help me with what I have to do. And she told me something that has stuck with me. She's only said it to me twice. And she said, I don't care if you have to work twice as hard. If that's what you got to do, that's what you're going to have to do. And I thought about that and I'm thinking, okay, 1985, I'm kind of out here, Cal Poly, I'm looking at all these little groups that are together and they divide up the homework. There's 15 problems. This guy got 2, this group got 2, this one got 2. I got all 15 by myself because there's no one around helping me. And I said, okay, I get that. I get that. But then I started thinking about that in the larger sense of why should I have to work twice as hard to get the same result? I mean, if I have the skills, which I did, obviously I graduated, but why should I have to work twice as hard to get the same thing? And so what I had was a formula, and the formula in math would be 2x equals 1, where x is what you want. But when you put that in the formula, x comes out to 1/2. So when you working twice as hard to get the same thing, you're actually getting 1/2 of what you get. And that's the kind of the setup for what I wanted to talk about tonight, which is what is the difference between what's going on with these younger protesters that are out in the street doing it. My generation, I'm 57, gonna be 58. I'm a kid of the 70s, okay? And then my parents who were born in the 20s, and how that paradigm of protest has changed. Because if you ask me, and when I've talked to my daughter and talked to some of these other younger people, they're saying twice as hard ain't gonna cut it no more. So when I looked at that and I said, you know, mom, you were right about having to work twice as hard because that's what the conditions were at that time. And if you wanted to get some sort of success, you were going to have to work twice as hard. You're going to have to overwhelm them with how good you were. You remember back in the day, especially when the HBCUs, before they were HBCUs, they were just called the black colleges. Certain people, especially more liberal type folks, especially liberal white folks, used to actually seek out black doctors, black dentists, black lawyers. And one of the reasons they did that was because they knew if you had that law degree and you passed the bar and you had that medical degree and you passed your boards, or you were a dentist and you passed your dental boards, you had to be a bad brother or sister. That meant because you had worked twice as hard to get the same thing. Because the perception of us was your work isn't really worth that much. Basically, you're going to have to work twice as hard. This generation, when I talk to these young folks out here today, they ain't buying that no more. They want equal input, equal output. So I kind of broke this down a little bit to take a look at this and say, what were the generations fighting for? So when I look at my parents' generation, the word that kept popping up in my head was recognition. They wanted recognition of just being. They were trying to survive. And I have three words I'm going to use here in terms of the generations, and I get to them in a moment. My generation was looking more at opportunity. We wanted to get in the game, but we still had to work twice as hard. This generation, like I said before, equal effort, equal output. They shouldn't have to work twice as hard, because if their work is of the same value, why doesn't it get the same reward? So when I take a look at that, and I said, there's three words I was looking at, and I said, for the older folks, it was survivable. For my generation, it was viable. And for the younger generation, I made up the word thrivable. They don't want to just survive. Our parents were walking down the street, and literally my mother, who was born in 1927, she came through the Depression, the Dust Bowl, World War II, Korea, civil rights movements of the 50s and the 60s, the economic slowdown and inflation of the 70s, and then had to deal with two big knuckleheaded boys that she was raising, okay, after my father died in 1980. So that was, if I could just get you to this point where you can do better, you can do better. Again, I agree with that. But there got to come a point where you keep working twice as hard and getting literally half as much. And that just wasn't going to cut it anymore with this young generation. My generation was a generation that benefited a lot from those people that came before. They were the ones marching for survivability. We were looking for, okay, can we have the opportunity? Yeah, you got the opportunity, but you're gonna have to prove yourself. That means you're gonna have to work twice as hard. And again, this younger generation not wanting to do that because what they're saying is, why should I? This is the phrase I came up with. Why should I have to wait for anyone to give me what's already mine? We have been sitting here for years. My parents got the crumbs. We got the pie. This generation wants the kitchen. Okay. And I know for some of us, for myself, that's a shift in paradigm because you were used to growing up with that. You know what? If you're gonna have to work and you're gonna have to work and you're gonna have to work, and that's what it takes, that's what you do, that's what you do, that's what you do. But you take a look at that, you say, well, you're devaluing yourself. You're telling yourself, yeah, your work is worth half to try to get something from these folks who don't value your work. And I just don't, and I've had to think about this for the last several weeks and trying to prepare for this and thinking, where does this all come from? And I think it comes from some things we talked about for the first time I was here, and it really sat with me when I thought about some of the things and some of the comments that people made about how we would kind of not make eye contact, kind of keep our heads down, kind of walk on the side of the street this way. And you start thinking about that, you go, but wait a minute, hold up. I am a full citizen of this country. I love this country. Don't get me wrong. I have no animosity towards the country as a whole, but that doesn't mean it don't need to have some things fixed. It's like having an old car. I may really like it. It may have a flat tire and a few other things wrong with it. I like the car, but it still needs some repairs. So the country, like I said, I love the country, but there are things that this country needs to fix. And one of the things that I looked at in this is I was listening to Jason Whitlock, and Jason Whitlock was a reporter for ESPN. In fact, he had a show with a couple other guys. He's kind of been on and off, but he's gone more to the political side now. And he was talking with somebody. I forget whether he was on MSNBC or CNN, and they had asked him his opinion about what was going on in the country. And he said this phrase, and I wrote it down. He said, the country doesn't owe you love. The country owes you liberty. And I stopped him, I sat back and I said, that's pretty deep. And I said, you know what, let me put it in Peter Rogers speak, because I don't have that kind of eloquence he got. I said, I don't care if you change your heart, but you better change your ways. So one of the things I'm looking at here is, I think one of the things that we are considering, especially with young folks, is I think they've gotten to the point where I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you don't like me, but you will respect me and you will give me what is mine. In fact, I'm not going to wait for you to give me what is mine. I'm going to take what is mine. And I looked at this and I started thinking to myself when the Juneteenth holiday came out. I had a discussion with my pastor about this, and he wasn't that thrilled about it. He said, well, that's great. We get another day off someday when they actually give it to us next year, but what's behind it? And he said, I want legislation that means something behind the holiday. Would King's birthday mean as much to us today if we didn't have the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act that was passed posthumously after he was assassinated? Would his birthday mean that much? So one of the things I started looking at is, this is symbolic with the Juneteenth holiday. I think it's a good thing personally, but because any little piece that we can get is good. But the whole point is, what else is behind this? Where's the legislation we've been working on for over 100 years for the anti-lynching law? You can't get an anti-lynching law passed. And I had that discussion about a week and a half ago as to why do you need that? And I said, well, you got these little jurisdictions all over the place, and you saw what happened with people like Emmett Till. You get him in these little jurisdictions, and okay, he's going through the justice system, and they said, you know what? They ain't guilty. Well, without a federal law taking that out of these little jurisdictions, you cannot guarantee you're going to get justice. In fact, I can guarantee you won't get justice because that's the way it worked back there. And that was a way of keeping us in control and keeping us in line. And my parents went through that generation. I heard those stories from my mother who talked about things like Emmett Till. She remembers where she was. I got a cousin who's 75. She was 10 when this happened. She remembers it. And these are things that this generation, they're tired of these massive numbers of us having to be killed in order for us to get some attention. And one of the things that I like that they do is why do they say their names? Because what you want to do and what I think they're doing, what I've heard from them, is each one is just as valuable as an individual rather than having to have an entire group of people who are murdered or beaten or disenfranchised for us to get some attention. So when we're talking about these people with their names and telling them what is going on, that person has value intrinsically of themselves, for themselves, by themselves, as a person of color, as a citizen of the United States, and as a human being. And that's why it is important for us to understand what these young people are fighting for and to get behind them. We don't always understand, we don't always like their tactics, but they sure got some stuff, didn't they? I mean, we've had organizations for years, which I love these. I love our organizations. They've been fighting and scratching and laying that foundation for years. I looked at it this way: our parents, they plowed the road. Our generation paved the road. Now this generation is going to roll down the road, and they want to make sure that when they go down that road, that they are actually going to the same place with the same skills, same effort, same outcome. Because we're tired. I'm tired, quite frankly, even in my job, with very few brothers in my kind of position, in my kind of work for almost 35 years. I'm the only one in the convention. I'm the only one in the meeting. I'm the only one there. And I always have that kind of back of the throat thing about make sure your diction's cool. Make sure if they got 10 charts, you got 20. If they talking about this to the fourth decimal point, you take it to the sixth decimal point, whatever it takes. And I shouldn't have to do that. So that's a mentality that I grew up with that I have tried very careful not to put on my kids. Because for me, that would be a sign of progress if my kids can put in the same time and get the same outcome and not have that paradigm in them that I got to be twice as good. I got to be twice. That's a lot of stress. So that's one of the things that I was looking at tonight. And I am open for comments and questions and everything because I have a little bit more, but I want to take a break right now and say, are there any questions, comments about what we've been talking about so far?
So let me go around the panel because that's very interesting observation. I have something to say, but I'll wait for later. So I'm just going to start with the panel. I'm going to go to Sister Cherie first. Sister Cherie, question, comment.
No, I don't have a question. I do have a comment or whatever. Everything that you're saying is so true. Because I felt that way when I was in high school. It was only one of me in the majority of my classes, and when it came time to group assignments, the one thing that I experienced that I was always the group leader, and I had to pick up the slack from other group members so we could have our assignment completed on time and credited or whatever. That was all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go to Miss Moore, Diane Moore.
I'm sorry, I had to walk away from the computer for a few minutes, but I certainly agree with everything that Peter has said. I just feel like sometimes there's a breakdown or gap or loss in the generation that we're seeing now. And it makes me, I'm dismayed by some of the things that I see, as opposed to what has happened during my generation and the generation before. It almost feels like they don't care too much about the history or what has happened in the past. So I think we just need to do a better job in in teaching our young people, this current generation. Thank you.
Right, thanks a lot. Sandra?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, well, I could just piggyback off what Diane said as well. But, I've heard Peter's story um, several times before. And I do, it's kind of a mixed emotion for me. I think I'm proud of this new generation because this new generation is, they're doing more than protesting. They organize and they're creating a movement. But one thing Diane said is true. I'm concerned about they know a little bit about their ancestors and the stories, of course, everyone, the stories of slavery and the stories of struggle, Jim Crow, civil rights. But, my generation holds that in our hearts as appreciation for all the blood, sweat, and tears and death that they gave their lives for us. And I don't think this generation, although they may appreciate it, but they're not going to go on the heels of that. They're going to make their own movement. And I just want them to be mindful of the past, because the past and our history is what makes us, what moves us forward. And I just think that some young people that I talk to, they're not interested in knowing who Martin Luther King is. Some of them don't even know a lot about Martin Luther King. A lot of them are going the Malcolm X route, which I do understand, believing more and forget this whole peaceful lifestyle, forget this whole peaceful protest, and no, we're going to do some stuff. And as far as working twice as hard, I just think that's something that we always have done. Everything we do is always, we got to be better than, if you're talking to a Black doctor, his struggle is not like the white doctor. It's always a different struggle, always a different race. So, but I think a lot of the things that are going on are positive. I appreciate this new generation and their thinking. I just want them to be able to sit down and listen also to their elders and to people who have gone through a lot of things they have not gone through yet.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, there's a Zoom user on here without a name. Would you like to unmute and say anything? You have a question or a comment? Okay, maybe not.
That's a Zoom user.
What's that, Professor Ron?
Zoom user. Zoom user. That's what's on this face, Zoom user.
Yeah.
Hi, this is probably me. This is Patel. Hi, everyone.
All right.
I kind of just want to piggyback on what everybody else was saying, but I also want to add a different kind of perspective. And I think that in some ways, this generation embodies the drive of the 60s generation with regards to civil rights. And when I say that, I say that they're looking more so at civil rights for everyone, not necessarily focusing on their own culture. They are supportive of, the LGBTQ community, the Hispanic community, immigrant community, their own African-American community, all the underserved communities they're supportive of. And in a sense, that was, I think, what Martin Luther King focus was equal rights for everyone. And that's what I do see with this millennial generation. So that's my comment.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, we're gonna go to Brother Doctor.
Yeah, I agree with everything Roger said, the first half, and exactly just what the Zoom user just said. But go back to what Roger said at the beginning, working twice as hard. You know, I retired 5 years ago, 30 years in the civil service, you know, working for city, state, county, federal. That was good back then, like Roger said, but just as I was leaving, the new thing, man, it's not working twice as hard. It's getting to the point where who you know, been in the car, that click. And I talked about Ross Key yesterday, and good topic, good tough subject. You have to know people to get hooked up, man. You know, you gotta be in that car, you gotta tap dance, you gotta coon a little bit now. It doesn't matter now, you know, if you're working twice as hard. Twice as hard only goes for, you know, your physical stuff. If, you know, jumping and running, singing, dancing, that's when you work twice as hard. That's why when it comes to play. But it comes to intellect, you know, you gotta work twice as hard, intellect, and you gotta know someone. Just like, you know, we had these school scandals. You know, you're not gonna move up, get above if you don't know no one, or if you don't cheat, or you don't have someone cheat for you. Like I told Rossi Key, you know, you get every once in a while, you will get lucky. One person will get lucky. But if you don't have it, you know, people speaking up for you, looking out for you, you're not in that car, you're not going anywhere. And I told my daughter and my nephews, hey, you have to level the playing field. If they're cheating, you got to cheat too. I don't care. You got to do it if you can get away with it, because they're cheating. They're getting away with stuff, and you're working twice as hard. You wonder, why is this person keep getting promoted? Or why are these people coming in? You know, it's who you know. You got to get hooked up. If you have no one speaking for you, you know, you're not going to move up. And just like the Zoom user said, you know, the crowd now, they're forced to be participants with everybody else, because you can't be on that ledge sticking up for black rights and you hoping that this white guy or Latino guy hook you up. So you got to play the field evenly with everybody else, go along, just like what you guys saying here, the basketball guy, the go along, get along crowd. You got to go along with it, man, if you want yours. Now you can stay, like I told my daughter and my nephews, hey, you can stay and be all powerful this. Just expect to stay at the bottom. If you're cool with that, that's fine. But you're gonna look at all these people moving up ahead of you because you didn't play the game. You know, you gotta get in there, you gotta cheat, have someone cheat for you, gotta have that hookup. And that's the new thing now, man. That's the new kids, man. That's the new stuff. It wasn't like back in the day, like you said, Roger, back when we worked twice as hard, you got in there by what you know, and they saw your work and they trust you. Now that's part of, man, who you know. Who's gonna hook you up? Been in that car, been in the clique, you know. That's it.
Yeah, well, let me just say a little something. Now, if there's a institution, the people that's running the institution sets up the rules. So if we look at what we're talking about on a grander scale, we're in a system that's not set up for us. So since it's not set up for us, we have to figure out, like I'm down with Neely Fuller, how to dismantle it. And so I'm in that mode, and this platform is for that mode. If we could, I'm gonna keep saying this until it starts sticking. If we do what the things we supposed to do and do things in a constructive manner, it would force, and I'm going along with Neely Fuller, it would force them to either do what they supposed to do, and that's the system leaders and people who run it, or they kill us all. Because we definitely ain't got no weaponry for them So if we get on a massive constructive behavioral and do everything that we supposed to do, and I know that the system is against us doing that because they're going to always put roadblocks up. But if we can overcome, when we talk about overcome our sorriness, our mental illness, and do things the way we supposed to do them, we can be the kryptonite of this system. But that's something I just wanted to say. All right, I'm gonna go to Brother Hembry.
Yeah, kind of tuned in after a couple of minutes, got started. But anyway, this is my perspective on all of that. We tend to suffer from what I call the illusion of inclusion. Everyone has spoken and talked about system and what we got to do to finagle through it. Well, let me inform everybody. We are behind enemy lines here in this country. We behind enemy lines. You think something's gonna be given to you instead of you creating for yourself. Now, somebody talked about the history, but they started on the slave ship. Our young people need to know, what we've been doing since beginning of time. Africans ruled the world for millions of years before anybody else was on the scene, at least 300,000 years, before the person that we're following now came on the scene. So there are things in our history that we need to know that they don't know. They ain't teaching in the school. They're not even teaching in so-called Black colleges that our kids need to know to get that light turned on to what we can do. Because if you don't know what you've done, you don't know what you can do. And we don't know that we built the first universities in the world, that we created time, that everything that the European has given to us is stuff that we already had that he's molded over and given back to us. See, that's what our kids don't know. And I found that once they know the truth, because the truth, you can, like the brothers say, cheat and all that, you got to do what you got to do to get ahead. Well, I kind of don't agree with that to a degree, but I know, what you got to do to get over, to put food on your table, for your family. But this is what I taught mine. Be the best, at what you do. And I don't give a doggone, who's in control, whatever, but the powers that be that leading the thing, they're not going to turn away somebody that's the best because of their skin color or whatever it is. You just be the top dog and somebody's going to find you. Or what we need to be looking into is creating our own so we don't even have to deal with that. For example, this holiday coming up Sunday, the 4th of July. This is for you, Mr. Doctor. Now, Black people all over this country gonna be spending money on barbecue, fireworks, liquor, fake trips taken, you name it. Now, for a holiday that ain't got nothing to do with you, you was enslaved when they came about it. See, this is what I mean by suffering from the illusion of inclusion. And like I mentioned earlier in my show, as long as you deal with any tenets of your former slave master, we're doomed. You cannot recover yourself from using the things of the person that put you there in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean through all government, education, economy, religion, and go stay away from that one, stay out of trouble. But the amount of money that Black people spend in the United States of America, I mean, if we would just come together and try to formalize just produce something. If we don't make nothing but potato chips, soul brother potato chips across the country, that's jobs, that's distribution. You got all the, but we fail to because we don't love ourselves. And that's something we got to get past. Like Dr. Clark said, until you can look in that mirror and love what's looking back at you, you ain't got a chance. Anyway, I don't want to take up Mr. Rogers' time. This is not my show, it's his show. Well, I just want to get that in there.
But you know what? I appreciate all the input because this was really supposed to be a community education network.
Right.
I look at myself not so much as a lecturer, but as a facilitator, because the people that are on here, we've got 10 people on here, and that means there are 10 different experts potentially sitting on this screen that all got opinions, all got life experiences, and all have something to contribute. And it's like you were saying, if we could come together, because one of the things that I look at is what you were saying, we keep drinking from the same poison well and then wondering why we still feel sick. And then wondering, well, I'll just drink from it one more time. I think if I do one more time, it'll be okay. It's still poison. So we still keep drinking from that same well. It's a form of insanity. And we keep doing the same thing over and over again and keep expecting a different result when you see what the results are going to be.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have a proposal. This is my proposal. Anybody on here that has ideas, you could contact me. You could put your email in the chat, and we could begin to do some development. Matter of fact, this is the first stage is getting the team members together. So we have 3 of the team members on here. That's a part of the communityeducationnetwork.com. And then Brother Peter said he's willing to join to be the community professor, because I see that he has some information that's very pertinent. So he could be one of the professors, because we already have 2 other ones on here anyway, Professor Amin Ra and historian Joe Hembrick. So if you have ideas, we need to start formalizing some things to do in which we could build. So it's open. So that's my proposal to the panel. And I know people have things going on in their life, and they also have things that they do, but this is another entity that you can do something with also that will build. So that's my proposal to the people that's here. All right, Professor Amara.
Gani, everyone. It's just so good to hear and see everyone in this discussion. Very relevant, very important discussion. I want to thank Brother Rogers for his input. Just a few comments and a few questions. What college did you say you went to get your engineering degree?
Cal Poly Pomona.
Was Dr. Hamilton there?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I ever had a class with him.
Yeah, he was in the political science. I used to speak out there a lot. Sister named Sandra Moore was in registration, and but anyway, I used to go out to Cal Poly Pomona off Kellogg. We had a lot of conferences out there and discussions out there. I think I spoke at a number of the programs out there. But anyway, each generation, as Brother Henry said, has faced the same issues. Even though they may look at it different from the standpoint of trying to deal with it, but it was the same people doing the same thing. Throughout our history, we've always had to work hard. We'd still be in slavery if the people didn't work hard to get out. We've made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
And even though we can say there's some generation issues, and that's with some people in our generation, but we got a lot of positive people.
Right.
Them youngsters that voted in North Carolina to get Biden over because the brother asked them to vote. You wouldn't have a black senator and a Jewish senator from Atlanta. Those were young people voting, standing out in the hot sun. You understand? When Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, that was young people that demonstrated.
Right.
And that's when Black Lives Matter started.
Yes.
a lot of Black Lives Matter movement have been global, but those young people, Dr. Molina out of Cal State LA and Brother Keeley, them, the leadership of the Black Lives Matter movement in California and the Nation movement, they spearheaded a justice movement everywhere. Young people are at Morehouse, they're at Spelman, they're at a number of the 100 Black colleges, and they're working hard and graduating. We have young people in our public schools. The majority of them do their work. Many of them you don't see in a lot of public schools because their parents send them to other schools.
Right.
You know, take them out and not necessarily a private or charter school. They just, I'm gonna go to a Long Beach school. I'm gonna go to a school in another in Inglewood. I'm gonna go to a school somewhere else, out of Watts or out of Compton or whatever. You know, you know, we have young athletes that really, I mean, look what LeBron James did. He's young.
Yeah.
He went and opened up a school, went down there in Florida and paid people dues and things so that they could vote, ex-con. So, you know, we got to sometimes look at that we have some generation issues that the system promotes. As Joe and as Rasiki and the good doctor and Mashinda, and I'm pretty sure Miss Moore and Aziza and Carolyn Bush and Sandra Rogers, they have kids and children. I bet you their kids ain't gonna be sagging. I bet you your kids aren't sagging. I bet you your kids can't go there and just act like they want to be like Snoop or Lil Wayne. You know, you don't allow that. You keep them focused.
Yeah.
The destruction of Black families and parents with drugs and incarceration has had a devastating effect on a lot of our youth.
Right.
But we've had 100 Black men that took up mentorship. We've had other people that try, and churches trying to do their work. We have to look at some of the positive things that we're doing. And you know, you look at this whole concept of like, as you were saying, you know, we the formula for education, if you got a conscious counselor and conscious teachers that's dropping a sacred knowledge and sacred wisdom, the things about you got to be 100% smarter and 10% smarter, that's generally coming from your mama or teachers that's trying to motivate you, right, and your daddy. They get you to do your work and study because you're going to face racism. It's not that you're trying to do better than white people. You're just trying to keep them from blocking you and being the best that you can be. There is a lot of national organizations. I mean, we got a national reparation organization, a statewide organization on reparations. We got National Black United Front. We got the NACO, the National Organization, the Coweta Organization. You got Reverend Sharpton and his national organization just gave a big rally for the George Floyd family in DC. We had a $1 Million Man March with young people.
Right.
Went to that monument, not to march on Washington, they marched on themselves. They had to make a pledge to go home and do better and vote. And I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. No violence, and cleaned up the park before they left. Under a person that the system say you shouldn't listen to, Minister Farrakhan, Hakeem Maharabuti, Dr. Ben, all of them. We had a second million man march. Black women are excelling and have found their niche. You got a black woman vice president, you had a black man president, they were young.
Yeah.
You know, you got, now, well, what, yeah, do we need more organization motivate? Always.
Mm-hmm.
But don't think that we're not doing things.
You're right.
The system will make you think it's hopeless and we're not winning.
Right.
But as we always say, as one of our great freedom fighters said, he was hiding in the bushes and the enemy was all around him. And he looked at the other brother hiding in the bushes with him and said, we got him just where we want him. You understand? I mean, look at struggle as accomplishments and achievement. Yeah, people have been murdered. People have been falsely accused of crimes, our leaders, but we still prevail.
Right.
And we still move forward. The fact that you can go to Cal Poly in Pomona and graduate in the 80s, you paved the way and set an example. They had an organization called the National Association of the Black Engineers.
Yep.
I spoke at them 100 times. They took me to Detroit. They took me to Berkeley. You know, Charles Walker and that organization. But they weren't organized until the movement of the 60s. Now, there's two tendencies to the movement of the 60s. One was the civil rights movement, which was an integrationist movement and a nonviolent movement and a movement toward fighting laws. And then there was a Black Power movement that was inspired by Malcolm, Garvey, and it was about cultural revolution, the art revolution, the getting and, you know, fighting politics for power. And you know, Adam Clayton Powell sponsored the first Black Power movement in Philadelphia. I mean, it was an inspiration.
Right.
They ended up getting on Powell and getting him out of Congress because he integrated it, and he wrote the Powell Amendment that no segregated South, segregated state that practice segregation could get federal funds. We've done a lot, bro. And you know, and I appreciate your accomplishments and your achievement and really appreciate everything that you've said. But, you know, I always look at, as Brother Emmerich was saying, here you are, the 4th of July coming up. In fact, Douglas gave a speech about it. And he said, you know, this is not my country. Why are you celebrating? I look like Mr. T in chains when you had your freedom. Even though I helped you get your freedom. Your whole Declaration of Independence had a clause saying I should be free too. Then you took it out.
That's right.
The original
That's right.
Declaration of Independence. Our people for years, even my parents, had us out there burning money. First thing you teach your kids, don't play with fire, then you buy them fireworks. What's that about? You tell them money is valuable, then you burn it up. It don't even make no sense. So being culturally conscious and disciplined, because there are young Black kids that don't participate in it. Young fathers and mothers, hey, we don't do that. And they're happy because they teach their kids from birth about the 4th of July. Halloween, the same thing. Tell your kids don't eat candy, then you take them to go get a whole bag full. The candy and sugar, too much sugar. Then you tell them ain't no such thing as monster goons, and then you dress them up in monster and goon suits. Then you tell them don't take nothing from strangers, and you take them to strangers' houses to get something from strangers. Trick or treat. You're out your minds. But when you become conscious you know, hey, you want some candy, I'll buy you some, but you ain't knocking on nobody's door to get nothing from no stranger. You see, that's consciousness as we grew. But when I grew up, our parents had us doing it. They didn't know what we knew. Your parents had more common sense than us about how to navigate the system because of the racism they faced was harder than what we did physically. But psychologically, scientifically, and technologically, politically, and judiciary, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So the movement continues. And I just want you to keep on pushing and doing what you're doing. And, you know, and then as Rashaki said, maybe we can start some mentoring with young people to get into engineering. He's a math teacher. Other individuals on here have been math teachers. You know, I mean, you know, that's the struggle. Each one teach one, as Rashaki said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about it, Rashaki.
Yeah, that's excellent, Ra. All right, Peter, you want to continue?
Yeah, but you know what? We've taken a dramatic turn, and it's a good turn though, because that's why I picked this topic, because the topic in and of itself can be a topic of its own. But what I really wanted to do was spark this kind of conversation, because there is a sort of uneasy feeling that one generation has to the other one when they don't appreciate. But yet, like Dr. Ra is saying, but look what they're doing. Look at what has happened since. There are a lot of positives, but we sabotage ourselves because of the things that we do. And if you start with let's say you go to the wall theory, where a wall is built up of a bunch of concrete blocks. You weaken a few of them, the whole wall comes down. What we've got to do is we've got to strengthen each one of those bricks, which represents each one of us or each one of our families or each one of our, whatever the system that we're participating in. We do need to be the best at it because we simply need to be the best at it, period. But we've got to tighten some things up. And I think what happens is we still rely so much on those paradigms that have been instilled in us, and also understand that the others that we're fighting against, they've had paradigms instilled in them too. And somewhere in between is where I think these young people today have decided we got to bust their paradigms up. It's like Rashki said, we either gonna die trying or we gonna demo this thing, but something's got to give. And I think when we were talking about the same struggles that have been going on, yeah, it's the same struggles because it's the same minds have not been changed. But the first minds we got to change is ours. We've got to do our own healing. I remember, I think I mentioned this before. I was talking with, we had Bam Crawford, who has a church in Inglewood. She was at one of our breakfasts a few years ago. And she said, every single African-American in this country needs to be in therapy because you need to understand and heal from the things you know are wrong with you and the things that are inherently wrong with you that you don't know. Because we have suffered so much trauma that has not been validated, quite frankly, but we know it's there. I don't need somebody else to tell me that having a mindset of having to feel like I have to do X, Y, and Z just to get from you what's already mine, that sounds crazy in and of itself. So what do? We sabotage ourselves by buying into that mindset by doing some of the things that Dr. Ross talked about, where we go out and we say X and we do Y. We say Z and we do A. And then we wonder why we keep spinning in the same circle of mediocrity because we keep sabotaging ourselves. So I would like to see, again, like you're talking about mentoring, I would like to see coming out of these presentations, can we come up with an action plan post this? What can we do in terms of, let's start with a mentoring type of program. What are the strengths that we all bring that you can put together? Because I know there are people on this who are technical folks, I know people that I'm looking at here who are educators. They have access to places in the public domain. They have access to resources and things that are valuable in putting together the true, what I think the true message of the network should be. What does a network do? It delivers. It delivers a product. It delivers a service. It delivers something. So what our network should be doing is, yeah, we need to educate, but we need to also take that education and put it into action.
Okay,
So,
Brother Peter, let me just jump in right quick. That's in formulation already. I had my daughter mentor one young lady. I had two 60-year-olds doing mentoring, but they only did one session. I mentored a 13-year-old boy. I wrote up the information. So basically that's in the mix. All I have to do is communicate with you guys, at a later time. So I already have a written plan already out, or I have a format for it. So we could talk about it.
that sounds good.
Yeah. So it's things that are happening, and we just got to keep, you know, keep bringing things to fruition with whatever's your thoughts are. You have to bring them out and then implement them, especially the ones that are constructive. And I definitely have some things going on, and we're going to keep doing this so we could attract more people to the community. But okay, you can keep going. I just want to
No,
put that
no,
in there to let
no,
you know that
no.
we are headed in that direction.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm on board with you,
Okay.
because one of those resources is sometimes we don't recognize our own power. We sometimes even mute our own power. It's like, I got an engineering degree. How many other brothers you know got one? And from that school, I know one other, and unfortunately he is not on, but he was on last time. And that's two people that could reach other people, because we can go into these places. I've actually gone and done presentations at one of my friend's schools, um, down in Linwood, on science and math and what you can do, and trying to get these kids instilled into these fields that they can do something other than rap, act a fool. You actually have those skills, but someone needs to guide them and teach them and tell them and encourage them and exhort them and tell them, look, they don't get that at home. I was lucky. I had both of my parents, and yeah, my father died when I was young, but it was within the structure of what the life was supposed to be. He got married, my mother and father, they had their kids. He died in 80. My mother kept going. She sent two kids to college, both of them graduated, and we kept doing the right things. And we can't not value doing the right thing and keep celebrating stupidity. There are some things that when he said Lil Wayne, I'm sitting there thinking a grown ass man, 40 something years old, should not have the prefix Lil in front of his name for nothing. I mean, you're 40 years old, you ain't five. It's one of those things. But I get it, he's an entertainer, et cetera, et cetera. But people look at that stuff, and kids see that, and if that's the only images that they see, and those are the things that are being broadcast on these types of networks and these types of networks, we need this network to be that standing in the gap, saying that there's another way. There are other things you can do. You're not limited to just X, Y, Z. And if X, Y, and Z don't work, then you can start slinging, you can start gang banging, you can start robbing and doing all sorts of other mayhem. That exactly what they want you to do. I remember something, and I'm almost done because it just came up because I'm looking at my cousin Diane and remembering about schools. And she'll get this in a second. When I used to be a consultant for LA Unified, I'd worked with both of the major school districts behind the scenes as a consultant in their environmental health and safety departments. And I was talking to this one brother, the only black brother I've ever seen in EH&S in 34 years. And he had said, you know, the sad part is LAUSD sometimes is a pipeline to the DOC. So I said, what do you mean by that? He said, LAUSD sometimes leads you to the Department of Corrections. And I'm going, because we take these kids, we don't educate them, we give them half-ass, and then we wonder why they end up where they are. And then I'm going, well, that's not what LA Unified does. He said, no, it's not what they do, but it's a result. And a lot of that isn't because of what the teachers do, because the teachers, quite frankly, their hands are tied. They're tied up in a lot of bureaucracy. It's tied up in a lot of crap. This group don't trust this one. The administrators don't trust the teachers don't trust the parents. It's all over the place. I saw it behind the scenes. I saw it when I worked downtown as a teacher for a couple summers. That needs to quit. It's just like Wembley said, if we ain't going to get, how are we ever going to heal as a people if we can't get together as folks? One of the things I was writing down when he was speaking, I wrote the word trust down. I think to a certain point, we just inherently don't trust each other because that's the way the system was worked for us, to work us against each other. There's no better way to destroy something than to destroy it from the inside out. So if we don't trust each other, don't have that helps mentality towards one another, and always kind of like this towards each other, we ain't never gonna heal from this. But I think we can. I don't look at that as hopeless. I look at that as identifying a problem and then using the engineering mind, let's problem solve this. So I am very happy to for your invite. I'm on board 100%. So whatever we need to do, Dr. Raw, it is such a pleasure hearing you. I mean, I was writing notes. I was squirming in my chair. I was trying not to bust out, but I'm saying, you know what? I need to absorb that knowledge. And it just, quite frankly, it was inspiring to me to hear that the topic bringing up brings out things. Because I could drone on for hours. And Sandra even told me, how long you gonna go tonight? You know, they're the game. I said, no, I'm gonna be cool tonight. But other than that, I'm on board. Unless there's any other comments or questions, I'm kind of done.
Okay, you guys let me know. Somebody have a question?
Yeah,
comment?
I got a question.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
When you say we sabotage each other, I just suggest this. Say some Black people sabotage each other. Because our parents didn't sabotage us, and they Black, and our cousins and our relatives didn't. And then, you know, so I mean, each race and ethnic group have problems.
Right.
You just had a bunch of white folks attack their own capital.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I mean? A white woman killed her own kids, put them in a microwave. You know, I mean, they don't say white on white crime. You know, I mean, this condemnation of us as a race is what they wanted.
Right.
Deprivation, degradation, and then we sometimes lose ourselves. We got women running around here with other people's hair thinking they look good. You know, I mean, be yourself.
Right.
Be beautiful within.
Exactly.
You understand? Develop skills as to be a mate. I ain't talking about cooking and all of that. I'm just talking about how to work with each other and produce peace and the harmony with each other. But you know, I'm just optimistic. I mean, I'm optimistic. Look, I've seen Rashaki fight for every inch he got. You understand? He worked his way up, and he got a beautiful home, beautiful wife. It's decorated in a multicultural neighborhood. I seen Brother Hembrick. He wrestled with kids in Linwood and in Compton and Centennial. He set up a mural with the Mexican monument and the Black monument, trying to bring them together. There are people doing beautiful things. So I don't go with the absolute all Black people are bad, all Black people doing it. No, some.
Right.
And just, you know, and then, but we have more people doing positive things then we got doing negative things. But the system will make you think we ain't doing nothing. All our kids are in gang. All our kids are haters. They're gonna kill us. You know what I mean? That's what Joe was trying to say, Brother Henry. Listen to your culture. And as you pointed out, do our own statistics. You know, even CNN, all they're talking about is this hotel blowing up. But they ain't talking about how many Israelis bombed the Palestinians and blew up their hospitals and schools, and they won't even let us see that. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But they have everybody crying all week about the hotel that fell on them. You understand? And every network with all the Jewish reporters are there all day. And they have to make up a discussion because ain't nothing to talk about. You understand?
Yeah.
We got Black people, they didn't go to Michigan where they was giving our people dirty water and see how many kids are suffering from that. They didn't go to Tulsa and deal with what happened to Black Wall Street. They didn't burn Black Wall Street. It wasn't no dreamland, it was a nightmare. And they killed us. But we fought back. They never talk about the soldiers that fought back.
Right.
Because they don't want you to think that, I mean, we got resistance everywhere, brother.
That's right.
And so I'm just saying that, you know, I'm just passionate, that's all. About this
That's good. That's good talk. That's good word.
I could chime in right quick, Brother Rashaki.
Yeah, go ahead.
See, this is the crux of the whole scenario with us here and the fact of what we don't know about ourselves. The people in power know the true identity and ability of people of African descent. And their whole game is to keep us from tapping into it. We have a spirituality that's in us out in the Netaru, which is nature, that we ain't really hip to either because we tied up in a bunch of organized religions. But it is stuff in us that enabled us to give civilization to the world. The things that we created, you know, that our ancient ancestors did. And if you believe in DNA, well, if it was in them, it's in you too.
That's right.
But we can't get to it because of all the things that we're tied up into what we've learned from him, which is by design. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I try to get our people to see. It's a hard nut to crack, but I'm telling you, nature will teach you how to live. Get out there in nature and see what's going on. And from there, you can see how things are supposed to be going in the world. But you got other, and let me ask you this before you go. I just want to put that in. Let me ask you, Brother Peter, have you ever heard of Imhotep?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're an engineer, you should know that. But I talked to people who are engineers from Black colleges, didn't know what I was talking about. There's so much that we don't know. There's a plethora of information about us that we need to know. And if we came together knowing this information, there's nothing that we can't do.
That's true.
But the thing is, keep us from getting there.
Right.
That's why we got the Tarzan, the little Sambo, and running around with spears and all that. They ain't showing no pyramids and all this other stuff, mathematics and stuff that we created, and that we even built the first university that they used in Spain. So see what I'm saying? That's why it's so important, and I keep harping on this, and this was my talk was on know thyself, because we don't know ourselves. And if we did and would tap into those things, you know, because we come from societies where wasn't no word for jail, wasn't no old folks home, wasn't no orphanages. We had a great humanity. We took care of each other.
Right.
And that's what we've gotten away from because we're so caught up in the system that we're trying to make it in. And I know you retired and I'm retired. And so we ain't got to deal with the rat race hardly anymore. But that's what our people are dealing with, trying to put bread on the table and whatnot. But there's things that we can do. There's positive things going on. But the biggest thing we need to do is wake up to who we are. And that's truth. And an old hustler taught me back in the day that you can take the truth, you can shoot it, you can blow it up, you can bury it, but the truth always comes back and takes its proper place.
Hmm.
And this is the age of Aquarius, which is the age of information. And we need to get the information that our ancestors had, implement what we can into our lives, and keep it pushing. Because there's power there, but we don't know nothing about it.
Well, that's why we got you, Brother Joe. You gotta do some series on the information so they can know. That's exactly why we have you. So that's we could dispel all that now and say, okay, Brother Joe, you go to community education network.com. And we got Brother Joe on there teaching.
Let me start you with this.
Okay.
And, you know how it was hot today. You know how black people, oh, I gotta stay out of the sun. No, get in the sun. Raw is what you need to build up that chakra that builds up that observational antennas in our bodies. That's what it does. This is African spirituality I'm talking. Okay. And there's some books called The Metal Netter that explains a lot of this. We even think with the wrong side of the brain. There's a left brain and right brain thing, and we on the wrong side because we involved in this European thing. The last one to get civilized, that's who we following. Just think of that. The last one to get civilized, the world, and all he's doing is coming with these things, basically religion, and taking people's land and resources, okay, and leaving them with the religion. Everything that industrialized the world comes from the motherland, and I'm through, Rashiki. Another lecture.
Okay, well, I was gonna say more, but I'm not. All right. So is there any last words, Brother Peter? And do you want anybody else to, you know what? I wanted to acknowledge your cousin, Carolyn Bush. Yep. She's on here. I want you to speak about her. We got I know we got history on here, but we got some more historical people on here. So can you talk about?
Is it Sandra? Can she hear us? Carolyn, can you hear us?
Yes, Sandra, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody, this is my cousin.
You know, tonight isn't a great night for me. I was mostly a listener tonight.
Okay. Well, that's
we have an emergency here, but I wanted to hear Peter.
Yeah, we just want to acknowledge Sister Carolyn Bush. You know, she's Sandra, give us a little background on her so people can know that we have some wonderful people here.
Yeah, Carolyn Bush is my cousin, my first cousin, and she was a freedom rider back in the 60s. She was in jail with
John Lewis
and Pastor Vivian. Freedom Riders. So she's graduate of Fisk University, and well, no, it's not Fisk, right, Carolyn? What school did you go to?
Now, I hate to say it, but I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee. But I did my graduate work at TSU and some undergraduate work at Tennessee State University.
And she tried to be a freedom rider on the campus of Fisk University.
Of Tennessee State University.
Tennessee State University.
Yes.
So we have a freedom rider among us, and she's a big deal. And I appreciate her being in our life, and she's a very special woman.
She is.
And she'll be on in the future as these things go on.
Right.
I will
Beautiful, beautiful.
definitely continue to listen, definitely continue to participate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. That's a treat for us. Okay, Brother Peter.
All right. Well, like we've been talking, I think the discussion has been lively. It has been informative I hope it's been informative and instilling and inspiring to everybody here. I am so appreciative of you three kings I'm looking at. And really, it is an honor for me to be able to participate and to learn. I think really what Hemberly said was really the key. We got to know ourselves. It's like if you don't know who you are, where you come from, what you've done, you have a hard time dealing with who you are now and where you're going to go. So I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for us to kind of go back and do that history, do that read, look up some of the things that we have already accomplished. Because like you said, most of the stuff that's being given to us is stuff we already had and we've developed. And it's like I said, why should I have to wait for you to give me back what's already mine? So if I leave you with anything tonight, it's, you know what? Be excellent. Remember, you've been excellent. You are excellent. And then go ahead and be excellent because you come from a line of excellent people who don't settle for selling. We settle for excellence. And we need to keep instilling that in the generation that's coming up because we came from that type of people. So I appreciate everybody and I'm good. I'm done. Thank you so much.
Well, I
Roger
appreciate you,
T.
bro.
Roger T.
Yes, sir.
Learning your culture and learning your history is good, but it's not as good as putting it into practice.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that know their history. White folks know their history and they still killing everybody. White people know their history, Mexicans know their history and they still kill people and rob and steal. It's to take that best of your people and the values and the character. Relationships are important. And if you want to, and male-female relationships are important. Marriage is important. If it didn't mean nothing, why not do it? You understand? Because it do mean something. Having the highest respect for yourself and for others is a practice. It's not, well, I believe I do. It's a practice. So we have to put into practice and require our youth. Like our parents used to tell us, respect, say hello to them people over there. Say thank you every time you get something. They taught us ethics and values. And we have to continue to do that. But the problem is, again, there are many of our young people, not all, but some, living in households that are not their mothers and fathers. They're placement homes, they're with extended families, and they may not be getting the parental guidance. They may be getting the housing and the food, but the love and the wisdom of preparing them for life and getting them to see life in a different perspective is something that we have to urge everyone who's in contact with young, and even some of these old people that think they're young. They can out dance their kids, out rap their kids. You see grown men with 3 and 4 earrings on. I said, well, what's going on here? Fighting, grown men in pajamas going to the store. So you can't just blame it on the youth.
Right.
It's about practice, and it's about how being an example of manhood and being an example of womanism. And we have some in the history books, and we have some that's acting it out. Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
What she did in Atlanta was monumentous, and the other sister. Black Voters Matters. They walked and that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You understand what they're doing? What they're doing in Detroit. Turn Michigan around. You understand? The Democrats wouldn't be over the Congress wasn't for Black young people and Black men, and especially the Black woman. You know, she's the #1 voter of all. So we have to give praise and respect for that accomplishment and achievement. You know, I mean, we're doing a good thing. And you know, I just try to stay as positive as I can and as hopeful as I can. And the best thing we can do is be an example for young people, as well as an advocate and a preacher to them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent, Rob. I appreciate everybody that's here, you know, and we're going to keep doing this. Professor Ra, are we on Monday for
Yeah,
Conscious
we're going
Corner?
I was trying to get this probation person, but I couldn't find them. So what we're going to talk about is, and I hope Brother Roger Schuerman, and as well as Carolyn and Sandra and Doctor and the Zoom user and Diane. We're going to talk about cancel culture and what they call race, what is that? Critical race theory.
Critical race theory, yeah.
Because it's going to have a profound effect on our freedom to criticize this society and to teach our people what we say we want to know our history. The white folks think that when you teach your people to love themselves, that means you're teaching them to hate him. And he want to block that. So we're going to talk about that and the profound effect it has on our relationship with each other.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Right.
So next Wednesday, July 7th. So that's on the 5th, Conscious Corner with Professor Armin Ra and historian Joe Hembrick. And then on the 7th, we have two shows. One at 4 p.m. with guest Mr. Bobby from the Counter Racist Code show with Neely Fuller. The co-host is Mr. Bobby. He's coming on at 4. I had to make that happen because his schedule is so jam-packed. And excellent host of radio programs. And then at 6 p.m., we got actor, comedian, impressionist, PB Smiley, and we're going to have a discussion about the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because he said that is very relevant to some things that's going on now. So that's going to be interesting. So I have to go and review that movie and see what he's talking about, and we're going to have a discussion about that. So we got to actually have two shows. That'll be our first time having two shows on one day. And I don't plan doing that often, but I had to make it happen with Mr. Bobby. You know, he's with Neely Fuller Jr. every week. And, you know, Neely Fuller Jr. to me is phenomenal. I know Professor Armin Ra knows him and have dealt with him before. And you know, maybe other people know who he is, but this phenomenal educator, Counter Racist Code show that he has every Tuesday morning. They're on the East Coast, and it starts at around 6 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. So that should be good. So each one teach one, everybody. Have a good evening.
All right.
Night, everybody.